Yeah. Okay. Hi, Nemin. How are you?
Hi, Tanaya. I'm fine. How are you?
All good. All good. Thank you so much for giving me your time for this discussion.
My pleasure.
So,
Thank you so
Nemin,
much.
before we begin, Nemin, if you could briefly introduce yourself for everyone.
Sure. So, my name is Nemin Shah. I became a chartered accountant in 2008. From 2008, I started working at Ernst& Young. I worked there for a year and a half, which was followed by a long stint at Deloitte for 5 years. 2015, I left Deloitte and I have started my practice. So again, there 2015 to January 21 was a practicing CA. In January 21, again, I have transitioned myself from a practicing CA and I have incorporated a company and now I provide consultants through a private limited company. So that again was a new sort of a phase. It's a sub part of practice, but yeah, not with the restriction come along with the practice. So
Absolutely.
my
Wonderful.
specialization was in direct tax only.
Okay.
Yeah, so my specialization was in direct tax, but to practice, I also acquired the expertise in GST as well.
Okay. Okay. Great, great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for giving us your entire experience. So, tell us, how was your
Right.
journey of when you cleared as a fresher? Were you very clear which profile to get into, or how your entire journey and your experience as a professional?
When I started off, practice was never an option for me, honestly. I mean, I was very there was one thing I was very sure about was I'm not going to get into practice. As you say, asked me about the field. Yeah, I mean, I was also very confused, where to go. But tax had always interested me a lot. Direct tax. I had great interest in income tax even in my articleship days, though I never really got full time into tax in my articleship, but I still did it off and on. So I was very interested in that. So I decided to choose direct tax. I gave a couple of interviews. I think one was with EY and one was with Deloitte, and they got me EY faster. So I decided to join EY. I initially was with the litigation team in EY, so I was
Okay.
exclusively only doing direct tax litigation for a EY. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it was difficult to choose where to be. I mean, at that age, I think it is generally very confusing
Yeah.
what to do. In fact, when I interact with people younger now, they are even more confused than I used to
Yeah.
be 12 years, 13 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, when did you decide to transitioning into practicing? I mean, where did you take this decision?
So no, 2000, it was towards the fag end of 2014. I was attending a meeting for managers, which was there at Deloitte, where I was told, okay, if you have to progress to the next level, which I might have been due in a year or so,
Hmm.
you need to bring in X amount of revenue.
Yes,
The X
yes,
amount was so big, be nervous, wondering where the hell am I going to get this X amount from?
yes,
Then that got me starting. If I can get X for them, why don't I get X X by 10 for myself and be happy with what I get for myself? And that's where the seed started getting sowed of,
hmm, hmm,
uh,
hmm.
of getting into practice. I have a friend who had joined practice a couple of years before me. So,
Okay.
he used to tell me how it is. And I started, exploring that option at that stage
Hmm, hmm,
that,
hmm.
if I can get X by 10 for myself, then I should be happy with it. So it was again, so, in my life, I made choices, voluntarily, as it were. Is always, some event happens, it triggers, and as a reaction to that event, you enter profession. So, like getting into CA, a lot of people ask me, why did you get into CA? I said, because I couldn't do MBA, I couldn't afford doing MBA. At that point in 2002, there were only two options. So you
Yeah,
either do a CA or you do a MBA.
yeah,
The third option isn't there as such. Now today there are far more career options for people.
absolutely. Yeah.
These were the two things a commerce graduate could do. I'll tell you honestly, when I used to think about MBA, what freaked me out in 2002 was I was shocked to hear the group discussion. or I could not even, like the way I'm talking to you right now, I would not be able to talk to someone this way also. I didn't have the confidence back then. So,
Yeah, yeah,
the
absolutely.
choice got made for me. Okay, CA is it, CA it is.
See,
Likewise, here in 2014 with this event, I decided, that okay, now let's give this a try.
that's right. So you did not think that at Deloitte you're drawing such a huge salary, and now suddenly you'll be on your own. Obviously, it'll take some amount of time to reach your level of the salary. So this did not
No,
confuse
no,
you.
absolutely, and that was a thought, but such a big factor because I at that point wasn't married or wasn't needing a certain fixed income,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
things were fine without my income as well. So
Hmm.
that gave me the flexibility. So that is the
Hmm.
first thing which somebody who wants to switch into practice needs to think, that
Hmm.
do they have financial flexibility,
Hmm.
because practice can be very unpredictable. You
True.
are earning an X amount on a particular day, and an
True.
email will come and you get that X amount from the next day, and
True.
you have to be okay with that degree of uncertainty,
Yes.
that you will go through those phases. So that was a factor, but it wasn't such a big factor for me, as I didn't really need
Hmm.
the you know uh, the
A fix.
finance at that point of time.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, you can go on.
Journey of okay. So in your journey of this practicing, what are the top three opportunities which you got, and what are the top three challenges which you think that people would face who are maybe starting practicing just now, or maybe thinking of getting into the practice? So
So as far as, let's start with the challenge. Let's start with the bad news first. The
yeah.
challenge is, the biggest challenge, as we discussed, is financial is the financial aspect, that it will be very rough
Hmm.
financially. You will not be able to. So you can make as many projections as you want, but they
Hmm.
really never translate into actual revenue, because for actual revenue you need to go and get clients, and people have
Hmm.
to trust you. So
Yeah.
the first challenge is that. The second challenge, of course, is, you if your networking skills haven't been great
Hmm.
for the previous stint, whatever, you're
Hmm.
going to struggle more in practice. So I will tell you this honestly, I also struggled a lot,
Hmm.
because my networking skills weren't very great when I was in
Hmm.
Deloitte. So
Hmm.
that had a toll. It costed me a little in my initial stages, but
Hmm.
I mean, I believe the who are making the choice, I believe they are much better at networking than I used to be. So
Hmm.
they will have that as an advantage.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
also, to remember as a caution, network doesn't necessarily always translate into revenue, because there
Absolutely.
are companies out there who either will choose not to hire a practitioner, or there
Hmm.
might be people within the company who may want to hire, but the global policies would be said that we have to hire a certain multinational firm. That way,
Hmm.
you will get a lot of support from people in the industry, but they will also tell you that, look, this is I can extend support to you, I can throw some little work at you, but largely I need to stick to my global policy. So that is another thing. The third big challenge which I see is, you should be able to sustain the quality of service for a
Hmm.
period of time. That is going to be the biggest challenge. So say you crack the first two things, people start trusting you, they start throwing work your way.
Hmm. Hmm.
The next big thing then is to make sure that you are able to deliver on your quality, not just in one particular month or one particular quarter, but has to go on month by month, quarter by quarter, assignment by assignment. You need
Hmm.
to maintain that. That
Hmm.
is where I think a lot of people may struggle uh, to do that.
Hmm.
As far
Hmm.
as now the good news, the opportunities. So I'll tell you honestly, and this may sound politically incorrect, but there is a lot of decline in the quality of services a lot of the large firms are offering. That
Okay.
again is down to recruitment policies, some of their
Hmm.
the way they work. A
Hmm.
lot of people in the industry are not happy with these services. That is the
Okay.
largest opportunity for individuals. So if you have had some experience in the bigger firms, and then you
Hmm.
come out and you set up your shop,
Hmm.
kind
Hmm.
of expect a certain quality from you, And
Correct.
they also know that you will not charge them the exorbitant fees which
Yeah.
some of these larger companies are charging,
True.
whereby that makes it
A
a
win-win
sort of
deal.
a match made in heaven in that sense. Yeah, absolutely, it's a win-win situation. That rider here being, you have to maintain the quality, that if you don't maintain, then it's not going to work for you. So in the next 10 to 15 years, I do see a shift. A lot of services are going to shift out of these larger firms, and it's going to shift into the the people who are ex uh, employees of these firms. So that, so they, on the one hand, that these people have worked there, so they are used to a certain quality. On the other hand, they don't charge the exorbitant fees which are being charged. So that shift is going to definitely come. It already has come. I myself have experienced, I have clients who earlier were with the larger firms but have just
Hmm.
chosen to give me a chance. And I have, in some cases, I have been able to hang on. In some cases, not been able to hang on. So let me be honest here, that let me not paint a picture that, oh, I'm doing great. It's not the case. One fine morning at 8 a.m., I got an email that from tomorrow your services to us. That client was giving me 90% of my revenue, and suddenly I was literally an orphan in the practice. Kare kya
Hmm.
abhi?
Hmm.
What to do?
Hmm.
There is nothing you can. So that happens. But the point is, there is a shift. So
True.
that will be an advantage for many. It is probably more advisable to practice with a bunch of people. Like if you have 3 or 4 friends, if they can start a practice together, that helps
Hmm.
more. Sole
Hmm.
practitioners usually struggle more groups of practitioners. So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
there are people in Pune, for example. There is a lot of business has shifted out of the so-called bigger firms into these newer ones, and that model has worked very well there.
Got it. So, has pandemic opened new doors for you because everything is virtual right now, and has it contributed anyway
So
in
it
positive?
in a yeah, in a sense it has. So I will tell you this: in the 6 years I have been on my own, I haven't had an office, and that
Hmm.
used to be a big minus. Prior to pandemic, people say, "Hey, tomorrow office nahi hai." I just
No.
couldn't bring myself to spending that much money on rentals. And
Yeah.
this also working from home gives me a flexibility in my schedule. If somebody wants something at midnight, I can work in the night, and then I can sleep in the day. And if I had an office, I had to work in a strict time. So in
True.
that sense, I found more flexibility like this. But post pandemic, that is the advantage. Everyone's working from, in a way you can brag to people. See, I told you 5 years ago that offices were relevant, and today they are not relevant anymore. So I have done that with a lot of clients. I told them, तो बोला था कि office का जरूरत नहीं है. So it has worked that way. But yeah, I mean, like everyone else, business has taken a hit. I mean,
Hmm.
people just were not willing to, at least
Hmm.
in 2020. There were a lot of challenges. I mean, there were fee cuts
Hmm.
which were coming. So that was there. I think also when they wouldn't pay. So one very big disadvantage for practice is people many times will not pay you, and you have to live with it.
Hmm.
You have to be, you have to
Yeah.
move on. You cannot throw a hissy fit when somebody doesn't pay you. Like in a bigger firm, you're used to, that
True.
you expect to be paid for everything. But here that really isn't the case.
Hmm.
People will tell you, ha hum de denge. You agree the fee on email, and then after the assignment gets over, they will either stop answering your calls and stop replying your emails. So what do? You can't knock on doors and start asking for money. So that, a little bit of thick skin you
Hmm.
need. That happened a little bit. But
Hmm.
yeah, in that sense, it was an opportunity also. And in some ways it
Hmm.
has been affecting the way it has been affecting everybody else.
Yes, true, true. So I will come to the skill set later because I think mindset is very important whether you are in a job or you are in a practice in both the situations. So when you are practicing, what kind of mindset, if you could list top three for people who want to start practicing or currently just recently practicing, what are the top three mindset would you recommend to those
So the first
professionals?
and the very most important would be to expect a lot of, pardon the expression, garbage assignments. In practice, especially when you get into practice, get is garbage assignments, and I don't mean any disrespect to the people who do this on a daily basis, but when you have been working in a bigger firm, you've been doing the cream work, and suddenly
Yeah.
you'll be sitting and making entries in Tally. A lot of people can't
Hmm.
take it. I'll tell you honestly, even I couldn't
Hmm.
beyond the
Hmm.
limit. Decided I will not do accounting because it is just not me. But that is the kind of work you
Ah.
initially get, because people are not going to start trusting you from the first day that, okay, this
True.
man has
True.
flown in on his with his cape here, and he will now take care of us. That's not the way it's going to happen. If you want to establish trust with somebody, they're going to give you these kind of assignments, accounting kinds, or preparation of
True.
financials and all these kind of work you're going to get, which is a little bad, but then you have to make do with. If you're not ready to sort of get into the should I say, get into mud or get into this kind of assignments, maybe practice is not for you, because if you're expecting that from the first day people are going to come to you for opinions, that's not going to happen. In my first 6 years,
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
afforded only one tax opinion, which is supposed to be the cream work in
Hmm.
tax.
Hmm.
And in the 6th year, I've gotten a
Hmm.
little bit more of it. So, that's how it is.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
People are, or the other
True.
dirty assignment which you might get is individual tax returns. Dealing with individuals is something else. I mean, we have a habit of dealing with corporates, understand things. You're suddenly dealing
Hmm.
with a 62-year-old lady who doesn't know what OTP is. You tell her, ma'am, OTP has come
Yeah.
on your
True.
phone. Oh, where has it come? I said, in your SMSs. Oh, how do I check that? She asks me. And then I literally want to bang my head in the wall and say, don't check, it's okay. So then she says, okay, I talk to you and check on the phone together. So you hang up and call me back. So you hang up and you call her back and say, oh, but I haven't still gotten to the message yet. So kind of people you have to deal with it. No disrespect again, but they're not tech savvy. They don't know when you
Hmm.
tell them,
Hmm.
send me an email. So, there's one client I said, email,
Hmm.
please, sir, email to kabhi aaj tak use nahi kiya. Very good.
Oh God.
Proud of you.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm.
So, then also another thing, in you're used to engagement letter signing. Nobody signs an engagement
Hmm.
letter with a practitioner. So, you tell somebody, go, I'll send a EL over. EL? Then you say engagement letter. किस चीज का इक्वल इनकम टैक्स लेटर फाइल करना है क्या? तो you explain that this is a contract between. नहीं नहीं, वो तो आप और हम बैठे हैं ना, क्या करना है? So the third thing, people have to get used to these things. You're
Yeah.
not going to get ELs, and you're not going to get very polished people. You have to deal with, sometimes
Hmm.
deal with lesser who don't
True.
understand things at
True.
all.
True.
And you sometimes it frustrates you, but then you have to
Hmm.
work with it. So this are which the mind, you don't start with this. Of course, we already discussed the financial aspect, that you have to
Hmm.
be ready for not having steady income, and
True.
also backup plan. Everybody's
Hmm.
practice isn't going to take off, so you give yourself, you put uh, milestones. Okay, if up till this date I don't reach, okay, I need to go.
Hmm.
I need to think
Hmm.
of something else. So that backup plan needs to be there.
True. True. And in terms of services, should they stick to one area of service or should they diversify their service offerings in case of practice?
I think diversification, as much as it should be done, because one line of service really isn't going to get. So accounting is the most obvious thing which the practicing CAs do. What usually happens is, also GST compliance. And now a lot of
Hmm.
people who may not have done GST before,
Yeah.
maybe they should try to do some online courses.
True.
These CA and CTC keep having these courses. So you do
Hmm.
those, start
Hmm.
acquiring knowledge, because nobody wants a one dimensional consultant who can only think once. So it's okay, it doesn't matter there. But when you get into practice, they're
Hmm.
not going to hire somebody else to do direct tax and a different person to do indirect tax. They probably
True.
want a guy who can everything. So yeah, diversification would be a better way to go. But again, a point of caution here: if you're not confident about something, then don't get into it.
Hmm.
Don't think that to dekh lenge. That doesn't work like that, because when you have to get down and do it, it
Hmm.
becomes very difficult. If you
True.
don't deliver, you're going to lose a relationship forever with the
True.
client.
True. 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 True.
Also,
Uh,
sometimes tie-ups with other CAs also help. So if you
hmm.
are in
Yeah.
one discipline, and somebody who does something better,
Hmm. Hmm.
and basically the mindset needs to go that everyone is not a competitor of everyone.
True.
You
True.
you you can form affiliations and tie-ups with people. So when weaknesses are, their strengths are, so you can complement each other. That
Absolutely.
would a point of caution here would be, whereas it is good to collaborate, it also needs a person needs to safeguard their interest.
Okay.
Don't put the other CA as at the front and center of it. Let him take a back end role, because if what's going to happen is scoop. If you introduce your client to XYZ person, not everyone is good in this world, so they will say कि अरे इसको हटाओ, हम ले लेते, हमको सब आता है. So, and then you start thinking, ये मेरे साथ क्या हो गया, ये दुनिया कितनी खराब है. दुनिया खराब नहीं है, your approach wasn't right.
Not
Ever let another person become become front and center in an assignment which you are doing, unless it is absolutely necessary. But there you can do that where you're very confident, where you are sure that the client will not, even if the other person pitches, the client will not move away from you. In those clients, you can make the person client facing, or you would rather keep him at the, tell him, you give me the requirements, I will get it from the client, and you do the work, and we'll share the fees. That I think is a better approach, because I've seen a lot of people get scooped like this, where they give a free hand to the other guy. The other guy goes and pitches for his work and gets the work, and this guy is wondering, scratching his head, what happened here. So that really shouldn't happen. Affiliations good, but sensible affiliations, not mindless ones. I don't know if you're aware, the bigger firms also outsource. So I have worked for the bigger firms for 15 CB certifications, where they don't put you in touch with the client. You're given at the back end all the information. You're supposed to prepare what you're supposed to prepare, share drafts, your services are done, and the payment is made to you by this firm. That's how usually it should work.
Absolutely. So, what are the top three skills which the technical skills, of course. Other than that, what are the skills which the practicing CAs should have?
So actually, technical skills is something I would say that, and when you're into practice, it may not come that as much into, probably would come in a should I say a bigger firm, where if you're working there, because the assignments you will be doing will not be having set up. Of course, it's good to know stuff and be updated, but I think the bigger skill would be networking and communication skills. I think something which I think a lot of don't focus on.
True.
When you don't communicate with the client, with your affiliate, within your team, it's going to take a toll. So skills, networking skills, you also should have the confidence of walking up to the highest person in a company and getting work from him. I'll tell you a story. In in my early years, one client's digital signature stopped working. Now I got the news that their digital signature has stopped working. So I called the guy, the lower level guy in the company. That guy said, "I am busy. You'll have to talk to the India head of that company this work." So I got the number. I had the confidence of straight away calling the India head of the company and telling him, "Sir, this is the problem you're facing, but don't worry, solution for you." And he got elated and he said, "Okay, tell me what it is." And I told him, "Get this document. I will accompany you to this place where they will insert DSC." Back then, we used to, with a thumbprint, you could make a DSC in 5 minutes. So I took him to my regular vendor. I had a vendor already. I checked with the vendor whether it's possible or not. Call this guy up. I went there. I took this guy to the place and I got him a DSC in 10 minutes. The guy was so impressed that pains after that to get me work in his company. It was very difficult for me. It took him several months to get the approvals. But I got work in that company primarily because I had the confidence going up to the highest official in that company and telling him that okay, I can do this. So that is something which people don't do. So most people would have stopped on call karega. नहीं नहीं वो तो India head है. You got to have the confidence to call the highest person and tell them that okay, this is me. I'm in touch. I can get this done for you. That's been my habits in school. In my school days, my mom had taught me when I was very young that you should go and ask questions.
What would be your advice for the new professionals? There are so many people who have given their exams waiting for their results. Some have already cleared and struggling as a fresher to find a job. Maybe they would have thought that after some years I'll get into practice. So, what would be your advice to them, career advice, while getting into a
So
practice?
I think
Or
as far as career advice is concerned, I think each person's mind works differently.
true,
So
true.
I would not give advice as much as I would give pointers of how they
Hmm.
themselves should think and make a decision
Hmm.
for themselves. So I'm not
True.
going to stand here and say, "Bhai, practice ही कर लो, वही best है या job best है." Neither
True.
is a best option. It
True.
depends. If a fresher has a good network, if
Hmm.
he, there are some people who businesses, like in my family, nobody's done a business for 3 generations, so
Hmm.
we never had any connects with anyone. But there are
True.
families who are, from coming from business families where you have business. In such cases, maybe there is a case to be made for even a fresher to start get into practice.
Hmm.
If the person believes that he or she can pull this off,
Hmm.
uh, based on, I mean, with their networking or the networking of their family members, and with all the that financial instability, uh, or doing garbage assignments at the beginning.
Hmm.
If they're okay with all of that,
Hmm.
maybe practice. For the people who don't have much of a network, maybe building a network is where you start. So maybe you get into a CA firm,
Hmm.
mid-size, where you can get your hands on,
Hmm.
work there for a while,
Hmm.
get a client-facing role.
Hmm.
Once you start facing clients, start building those networks. So one mistake I made is in my life is I've never done that in my previous employments, and that cost me in the initial years of my practice. So maybe people can start there, start building a personal people
Hmm.
where people trust you more than the firm. They should call you up if something
Hmm.
goes wrong,
Hmm.
rather than them calling somebody else in the firm. So
True.
that way, once you have that relationship, at a later stage in your life, if other factors permitting, you can think about getting into practice. See, practice will give you a lot of flexibility,
Hmm.
not which an employment can never give you, because you have
True.
to be there at 9:30. You have to be there till 8.
Hmm. Yeah.
There is no way around it. I mean, there are things like this and all, but they're really on paper. In reality, they really never translate into any flexibility.
True. True.
So practice will give you that. It will take away some flexibility. So is each one. So I, for one, wanted this flexibility in my life. So I chose the lesser paying option because I wanted this, and
Hmm.
with it. So again, move, but again, try to find like-minded people. Do it in a group rather than doing
True.
completely solo.
True.
I tell you one more thing. If people are going to get into practice, one very important advice I want to give them is, a chartered accountant is never taught how to sell. What you need
True.
is, if you're going to get into practice, there are online courses available.
Hmm.
Learn how, because chartered accountant बेचता नहीं है कभी भी.
नहीं
And in
बेचते.
the curriculum, you're never taught
Yeah.
बेचना कैसे है.
True.
और फिर उसी जगह पे मार खा जाते. मैंने recently किया है. This year
Hmm.
I did a course on solopreneurs and how to
Yeah.
how to sell better.
True.
So
True.
that important thing, because a lot of things we don't know. How to
Absolutely.
how to price yourself. Client will always say, अरे यार 500 वो बाजू वाला 500 रुपए में.
Answer.
You should have the confidence to say, हाँ भाई उससे करवा ले, मेरे को नहीं करना है.
True. Absolutely.
Because there is always going to be a बाजू वाला who's going to do it
At
in less
lesser
than you,
price.
for sure. So you have to say, okay, I will not do this. I'll charge you 2,000 rupees and I will do this. If
Hmm.
you want to come to me, I will give you XYZ service, that which the other do.
Hmm.
So then your choice, what you want to do. So that is something which you got to also do. But yeah, learning to sell is very important.
Yes. Absolutely. You finish yours.
I'm saying people who are not working right now can look into learning some of these skills. Either if they are interested in direct tax, maybe they should attend webinars,
Hmm.
read stuff up on direct tax. If they're interested in indirect tax, and likewise, if they're interested in FNP, what you do, maybe
Hmm.
they should consult people who have done that before.
Hmm.
Or if they're like valuations, for example, again, I think
Hmm.
something which a lot of new, I
Yeah.
received 2 or 3 calls lately.
Agree. Not only for practice, even if you decide for a self-employment, like I'm doing now, after my 9 year stint in corporate. So the first barrier which I faced is selling. I was feeling very awkward that how do I tell people that I'm offering a service but I'm charging. It's not for free. So that was the number one barrier for me.
Correct.
As a CA, but other people were doing it very freely. Yeah, obviously, you will charge for your services.
You're So for that matter, even if you're working somewhere, I think selling is a part of, because there you're selling yourself, because you convince the person who you're working with that you're worth something, and you
Yes.
can't do that unless you're having. So I will tell you a story about monovations in 2013, was it? Yeah, it was 2013. So I used to do a lot of good work, but I never got a very high rating. So I actually a person in Deloitte who consistently was, getting high rating. So I
Hmm.
sat down with her and said, "What do you do differently in your evaluation?"
True.
And she actually for 2 hours and sat down with me and explained to me how to keen the evaluation.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was very humble. I used to say, "Ha, bhai, I attempted to do this, and I was maybe able to do this." Very humbly, I used to write. She said,
Yeah.
Don't stop being humble. If you did 10 things, say 15. You
True.
have to sell yourself. You have to say, okay, I'm good. I have achieved this much, even though you may have achieved a little less than that.
True.
So
True.
that is something which so even that will be helpful even for employment. When they do their evaluations, they have to
Hmm.
say, I have done this. I deserve to be getting this amount of increment or this promotion or
True.
this position or whatever you are looking for. So
True.
that is something which a lot of people, I wasn't aware, frankly, when I was back then. I back in my Deloitte days, I wasn't aware this is to be done. But then I sat down with this girl. Then I spent an entire weekend, entire Saturday, entire Sunday, keying in my evaluation. And
Hmm.
that year, I actually got a SEE rating. The only time I ever got in my career. So
Hmm.
you know, so I realized that this is exactly what was missing in my earlier years.
Absolutely. See, a similar example in my career as well. One of the very senior person, he used to get promoted every year, and it was an industry, not Big Four. So in industry, usually every year no one gets promoted. Only after 2 to 3 years, on an average,
Yeah,
a promotion takes place. So I was very curious to learn that how he is doing that, and that time I just. Tried to gain information that how this thing is happening, and then I understood that after every quarter he used to send a detailed report to the manager, what has been achieved and how this xyz problem has been solved. It may be a very small problem, but still it was highlighted in a very written and highlighted in a very nice way to the seniors that these problems are solved in an organization and these are yet to be solved. So every quarter these kind of reports used to go, which I don't think anyone else did anywhere. So that was a reason where
yeah. I've never heard that happening in the industry, frankly. You're right.
yeah. So this developed a very good reputation for that person, and that's why any big task, any new project, it used to come to that person because a trust has been developed that if you give work to this person, it will be done because every quarter he's been doing something or the other. So it's not important that it's small thing or a
Right.
big thing, but I think portraying yourself is very very important, whether you're in a job or in an employment. So this is a very important aspect which you
Now,
brought up.
yeah. So on a lighter note, see how this government functions. Every time they do something, they always come out with announcements, press releases, which most of the times overdone. But this is exactly what we learn from them, that
True.
you got to tell people what you're doing. You,
True.
you you could be working 15 hours sitting at your bay.
Hmm.
Nobody will notice you unless you trumpet it. Okay, I did this. I achieved this. This was impossible to achieve, and I did this. So
True. True.
that sort of thing. This is something we can learn in a big way from, because we see in the last 6 years, they've done 7 years, they've done this very well. We have
Absolutely.
projected what work they do very well.
Hmm. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Amazing. So thank you so much. Any last thoughts which you would like to say?
I would just say that people that they should evaluate the pros and cons
Hmm.
detail. Don't make a rash decision
True.
on this issue, because everything looks very attractive from a distance.
True.
When you try to get into things, things are very different. I mean, somebody can think that practice is great because it gives you flexibility, but it doesn't give you salary. the so somebody's employment is very good because a certain number gets credited to the bank account, but you have no idea how much of sweat you have to
True.
pour to earn that money. So people tend to make choices based on a cursory look at things. I think they should look more into detail,
Hmm.
and also self-evaluation. What am I good at? If
True.
a person isn't good at networking, maybe practice is definitely
Not
a no for him
true.
or her till such time as that person acquires networking ability. If a
Hmm.
person is not good at following orders, or is not good at doing the work in the manner somebody tells, maybe an
Hmm.
employment is not for him, because he will not survive for very long there. So
True.
a self evaluation, and honest self evaluation, not a self evaluation you do where you say, oh, I'm great.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
do a
True.
critical evaluation of yourself, if so, from the perspective of somebody who doesn't like you.
Hmm.
In that way is you evaluate what your real strengths and weaknesses are, and you can work on them, and you can make better choices.
True. True.
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity, Tanaya, for sharing my views on this.
Thank you for taking out time, and I hope this discussion would be helpful
My
for
pleasure.
a lot of professionals also.
Very much. I'm also hoping that ways, and it's definitely been very good for me as well, having this interaction with you. So
Absolutely. We'll
let's hope
plan
it's
for
good for
more
other people
such.
as well.
Yeah, we'll plan for more such interactions also in future.
Oh, very much. Very much
Absolutely.
so. Yes, yes. I would look forward to. Yes, yes.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Damon. So I'll wrap it up, and have a
Thank
nice day. All the
you. Sure.
best for your future prospects. And
Wish you the same.
thank you. Thank you so much.